All right, as you may have heard, Google ordered some bad Chinese takeout. Now they're yelping about it, giving it a really low star rating. And pretty sure I have that right. That's the story, right? While China is notorious for human rights violations that range from censorship to capital punishment, many American companies turned a blind eye at the country's actions in order to reap a hefty profit. Since 2006, Google has done business in China by offering a self-censored version of their popular search engine. But after a recent cyber attack, Google is drawing a line in the sand. They've stopped filtering their search results and may withdraw from the country completely if the Chinese don't allow Google users uncensored searching. Does Google deserve the acclaim for changing its stance on China? Or is this a PR move that allows Google to escape a losing search engine battle? Do no evil. It's The Loop. Joining me now from San Francisco to help us make sense of it all, staff writer for CNET.com, Tom Krazit joins us. How are you, Tom?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing very well. Doing very well. Tell me, what do we know about the cyber attacks that actually prompted Google's sort of about-face with regards to being in China and not being censored?
Sure. Well, there were a couple of things that happened. The first major thing is that Google detected an attack against its own infrastructure that was designed and succeeded in stealing some intellectual property. They won't say what that was. We're hearing it was source code of some type, though, so that's a pretty serious thing. The other thing that was done was that an attack that originated from China, accessed Gmail accounts belonging to two people who are very active in protesting China's human rights record. So they weren't able to get the messages themselves, but they were able to get like the date the account was created and a few subject lines. So that's kind of a serious thing as well. And then the third thing is that there were a bunch of Gmail accounts that these attackers were able to access through what appears to be phishing schemes. That wasn't really an attack on Google exactly, but
sure.
You know,
they were probably going after Farmville accounts or something a little more lighter fare just for kicks.
Stuff. Yeah.
But Tom, let me ask you this, because Google and the Yahoos and the Microsofts of the world, they get attacked all the time, left and right. Why is this the attack that sort of breaks Google's back? Why is this attack the straw here?
Well, I mean, from what we're hearing, this attack was very widespread. Something like 30 or so American companies were targeted by this attack, and Google called it one of the most highly sophisticated and targeted attacks that they have seen. And don't forget that the attack actually worked. You know, someone was able to steal intellectual property from Google, whereas a lot of times they're just deflecting attacks that are annoying but not necessarily successful. Sure,
well, and just about everyone, I think, would agree that it's a good thing Google is sort of making a stand against China here. But how can you overlook the last 4 years? You know, Google's, do no evil motto, they went in there. It was sort of a damage to their brand when they decided to censor themselves. Can you ignore those last 4 years in light of this story?
No, I've been thinking about Mark McGuire with this whole thing. You know, it's like just because you finally do the right thing and admit that you use steroids doesn't mean we can forget your whole career.
Sure. Well, had Google saved baseball, we could forget censorship. But, in this case, they're turning it around. And, Google had only about 14% of the search market covered in China compared to something like Baidu.com. They had roughly 62%. So it has some bloggers out there saying that this is a PR move that lets Google sort of get out of a losing war while still looking good to the rest of the world. Do you think it's, is there a percentage here that you think it's PR move to actual stance for censorship and freedom of speech?
I think there's a little bit to that, but I think making that kind of argument is like quitting a baseball game when you're down 3-0 in the first inning. I mean, China is a huge, huge market. It has 340 million internet users. That's more people than live in the United States, and it's the #1 market by far. And only 25% of people in China are on the internet anyway. So even if you had 20% of that market, that's a huge number.
Sure.
And the growth potential there is enormous. So I don't think they would necessarily turn their back on all of that revenue just because they're losing right now.
Right. So you're saying that the short-term PR game doesn't necessarily outweigh the future financial gain to be made off of a country like China?
They are leaving billions and billions of dollars on the table if they follow through with this.
Right. Well, how have the Chinese responded to Google's threats? I mean, are they saying you need to recensor yourselves? As of right now, Google's up, right, and running uncensored in China?
No, it doesn't appear that that has gone through all the way. There are some people that are reporting they're able to get some things they couldn't before, but in a lot of cases, the results are still censored the way they were. China's basically come out and said, hey, if you're doing business in our country, you have to follow the laws. And setting up a showdown here over the next couple of weeks.
Sure. And what about the Microsofts and the Yahoos of the world? Are they remaining, censored inside of China, or do you think they're going to follow Google's move here?
Well, Steve Ballmer came out today, Microsoft's CEO, and basically said, we're committed to China and we follow laws. So I think that's what you can expect out of them. Yahoo's a little bit different. They're not a direct player in China. They own a company that is a player in China. So they've been playing it kind of coy. We haven't heard a direct response from them yet.
And Tom, very quickly, we're out of time, but do you suspect that these types of cases and these issues are going to come to light more and more as more and more Chinese get online and American companies try to take their products over there?
It's a huge, huge dilemma for American companies as they try to figure out how to abide by these laws that are deeply unpopular in the United States, but then, represent this huge potential business down the road.
Right. Well, regardless of their motives, we're fans of Google's move here, and we hope others follow suit. So, Tom Krazit from CNET, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you keeping us in the loop.
Sure, thanks, guys.